Ramble.
Amelia! Welcome to Guilty Pleasures. Today we are talking about, of course, the one and only. Oh yeah, bob your head while you do it.
I thought you were gonna do What Is Love, but you can't.
Oh, we can't? We can do 30 seconds.
Do 30 seconds?
At least.
We're talking about Night at the Roxbury, and joining us in the studio, we have a very special guest, the creator of Captain Laserhawk and Castlevania. We have Mr. Adi Shankar. Hello.
Woo! Bow, 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 bow.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
This is one of the most delightfully stupid movies that has ever been made. And right before we started recording, I'm just going to get right into it because you said this is your favorite movie.
Absolutely. It's my favorite movie. And for years, if you look through my filmography, it tends to be like lone badass with a weapon fighting in a, some sort of dystopian thing. So I would lie for years, right? I would tell people RoboCop's my favorite movie, Escape from New York.
Great choices.
Just to stay in genre and on brand. And don't get me wrong, I do dig all those movies, but this Night at the Roxbury is actually has always been my favorite movie.
To be fair, it does feel like Blade. It feels like the beginning, the opening sequence of Blade.
It totally is. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Night of the Roxbury is Blade.
Is that the title of this
Night
episode?
of the Roxbury probably happened in the Blade universe, and they were just not in the Blood Club. I think that's
they
what
weren't aware of the action happening.
They were
in the background.
aware of the club, but they didn't go.
They couldn't get in.
Well, Blade was happening in New York. This was LA.
This is LA. So they would love to go to that club, I'm sure.
Same timelines?
Same timelines.
Got it.
For sure. The exact same.
Wow, if we can get a Chris Kattan cameo in the new Mahershala Ali Blade,
Oh my God.
I would pay untold
He's just
money.
in the background, just bobbing his head, and he doesn't even have to. You don't even have to see his face.
Yeah.
He's just like facing the bar.
Yeah.
This was early 2000s or late 90s.
I think when I was in high school, I remember this.
Was it? Yeah.
So it had to be like 2006.
Okay.
No.
Earlier?
Definitely before that. Yeah, because I used to watch it like every week in high school. So I was in like late 90s, like.
Oh,
I'm gonna look this up.
wow.
I just remember this era of SNL. Like
Yeah.
every generation
Yeah.
has their era, and this was my era.
This is your era.
And these people were fucking gods.
This
to
is
me.
because this is when,
and I stand by it.
Yeah, this is when SNL, or this is, we can fully see the entire scope of their career. All of the SNL cast members here. Where
Totally.
it's just like you got Molly Shannon, Chris Kattan, and Will Ferrell.
Sherry O'Terry, maybe the funniest
Sherry
human to
O'Terry.
ever exist.
Yeah. What's my girl's name? Sorry. She was the cop in this. Sorry about that.
Oh, you have
Jennifer
Jennifer
Coolidge.
Coolidge
Yeah.
in a small
That
role.
was
Yeah, Jennifer Coolidge
Hold on.
pre-voice.
Wait,
Pre-voice.
pre-face, motherfucker.
Pre-face,
That's what
yeah,
I'm talking
pre-face.
about.
Dude, fair.
Eva Mendes is in it.
Eva
like-
Mendes.
Jennifer Coolidge plays Hottie Cop.
Hottie Cop.
That is her name
Yeah.
in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she does a very good job, and she really is believable in that role, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
She's a hottie cop.
Like the movie hinges, or not the movie hinges. The satisfaction of the ending hinges on her being believable when she, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Towards the end, there's a
I
big
need
old
to know,
callback.
okay, go back and tell me the year is 1990/early 2000 something. You see this movie for the first time, then continue to watch it.
Yeah.
What does this movie mean to you? Why do you love it so?
Um,
You also ask, you're like, how long do I have?
yeah.
So I didn't grow up in America, right?
Okay.
I was born in India, grew up between Hong Kong and Singapore. I immigrated here by myself when I was like, I think 15 or
Oh, wow.
14, 15. It was like 2 days before 9/11, right?
Oh, bad.
So it was kind of weird.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
weird.
I'm
The
I'm sorry to
backstory.
laugh at that,
backstory,
but
yeah.
fuck, what?
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny.
You're like, oh,
Jesus
America.
Christ.
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
God damn it.
Shit.
Oh, America.
America.
Oh, boy.
So living in Hong Kong, I didn't have access to American television. You had some of it, right? So I'd watch like World Wrestling Federation, but a lot of it was
You were
Like
looking for us to give you other
Yeah,
things, but I have no
No,
idea what
no,
made
no,
it
The
through.
WWE.
yeah,
WWF.
WWE. It used to be called WWF, yeah. But I would like torrent certain things,
hell yeah.
and SNL was
Pirates, babe.
it would be some
Illegal,
SNL
yeah.
sketches,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what SNL was, by the way.
You just knew the letters.
Yeah.
Yeah, but from like the torrent site, right? Where it's like SNL. You're like, what is SNL? But this is Celebrity Jeopardy. Or so I knew these specific sketches.
Yeah, but not like the show.
But I didn't know
itself.
that there was a show, and I didn't understand. And then I found these sketches about these two guys who'd party and they'd nod their heads, and I thought it was really, really funny.
It is such a simple bit, and it's so okay. We'll go. We'll go.
It's a simple bit, and actually, the first one I watched, the first sketch was the two guys and Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I may have been the first. I tried to find it this
them in the
morning and I
car?
couldn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so cut to I'm in America. I'm like walking around the grocery store, which was like a crazy experience because the grocery store was like huge.
Yeah.
And you're like,
It's the
whoa.
biggest store of all time.
Yeah. And I'm actually walking around looking for World Wrestling Federation action figures.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like walking around, and then I see Night at the Roxbury. I see a DVD, and I'm like, whoa, it's the two guys. It's the two guys.
Oh, wow.
I know
This is
these
sick.
motherfuckers.
I'm like, this is sick.
Yeah.
So I like bought it, and then I went home or back to the dorm. Or whatever.
Garrick, you're too good at the head bob.
Right. I start watching it, and I thought it was awesome. Now, again, if you're not from this country, you don't kind of get some of the cultural nuances and the references and stuff. And there's also a bias that you have, right? A group think when you're from a society. So to me, I perceive this as a story of these two awesome dudes who like were
Real
way
underdogs.
too awesome. We're way too awesome for the people around them.
They weren't understood.
Yeah, they were like misunderstood, and I'm like, they're
fucking
like
love
way
this.
too cool for school.
Oh my God.
And
This
everyone
like
else
a
is too
coming
lame.
of age tale
Right,
for
totally.
two guys
Yeah,
stepping into their
totally.
power.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So then
Wow,
I was like,
you just had the inverse reading. You're like, these guys are so fucking cool.
Yeah.
But the
believe
comedy
it.
is that the world
Oh
doesn't
my
get
God.
them.
Yeah.
exactly, and that's
How often did you wear
That's
a
so
black
good.
turtleneck, white chain, and just a jacket after that?
Shiny jacket.
I mean, I never emulated them, but that
Okay.
was kind of how I always
he wasn't cool
rolled.
enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's always how I rolled. 'Cause
Yeah.
we were moving around from society to society, so like cultural norms were always different, right?
Right.
Like from school to school, culture to culture, society to society. There was no like common thread as this is universally cool. So
Yeah.
I always just did my own thing.
Hell
Cool.
yeah.
Very
like
cool.
it wasn't
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it wasn't until I was watching the movie again for like the 20th time with these guys, and you know the scene where they're listening to Staying Alive
Uh-huh.
and they're walking around, right? And I point to one of the dudes and I'm like, I have those shoes.
Oh my God.
And he looks at me, he's like, whoa, he's like, stop the movie. Yeah. And so I was watching with like 5 or 6 guys, maybe
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
And they're like, wait, stop the movie. They're like, what is this movie about? And I'm like, and I told them this. I'm like, it's about these two awesome dudes. And like society is so like rigid and fitting into this box
Sweet dad,
that-
making friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
that they're not understood, right?
Yeah.
But at the end, like they triumph. They're triumphant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Live
yeah.
their dreams.
They live their dreams.
Wow. Yeah.
It like works out for them. They end
The
up with a fucking
American
nightclub.
dream.
So it's like everyone else sucks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And my friend was like, and they were like, no, dude, that's not what the movie's about. The movie's like making fun of these two dudes.
Oh my
You're starting
God.
to Roxbury pill me, though. I kind of believe your version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's just like let people be people, and then they could have a club that where the outside is the inside and inside is the outside.
Which,
Yeah.
by the way, I am desperate to go to that club.
Dying for
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So wait, after you found out that this was like that being made fun of, how did you feel about it? Were you in denial?
No, I was just like, okay, whatever. And then it was a little weird, and this is kind of a plot twist. I then realized the two guys that were telling me that the guys weren't cool were like almost exactly the two guys from the movie.
There you go.
Okay.
Haters
all
gonna
right.
hate.
Yeah.
It was very weird. Actually, I didn't see the connection. One of the guys' girlfriend pointed out to me.
Yeah.
Yikes.
'Cause me and her used to watch it, and then she's like, I don't want to say their names out loud because
right.
that's mean.
Oh,
But-
we've had to bleep
But-
so many names on this.
yeah, they were like literally exactly like the Butabi brothers. These
Yeah.
two dudes.
Yeah.
They were obsessed with getting in the club. Like
There's
Macking
no
on
one
bitches.
lamer in the universe
Yeah.
than that person.
Yeah, than somebody being like, they're making fun of them. They just blah, blah, blah. And then not realizing that you are also that person. Not having
It was
this
very weird. It's like
self-awareness.
some sort of like some
Yeah.
like a self-help guru could probably do some like.
Yeah, it's very Freudian. for
Right,
them
right,
to-
100%.
to
Yeah.
hate. Maybe they secretly hate themselves or something. I don't want to, talk about your friends, but
But no, I actually went to the club with these two dudes, or like, and it was kind of a interesting experience because
What
they
were
knew
their dance
so
moves
much.
like?
yeah.
Pardon?
ooh.
What were their dance moves like?
They were
Did
too cool
did
to
they
dance.
grind
No, they were too cool. They were
Oh,
too cool to
okay.
dance.
Okay, well,
Ah,
then I don't want
boo.
nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to do a synopsis, but also what is
Can I do it?
Please.
Oh, go
This-
for it.
This movie is about two brothers. You remember that movie, Step Brothers? You saw it? Will
Yeah.
Ferrell? This is
John-
them,
John C.
but
Reilly.
as teenagers.
Yeah.
They live in Los Angeles, and they're fucking nasty, fucking male club rats. Their dreams? To be a Hollywood club owner. Their dicks? Never been sucked.
Nope.
This movie,
Never been
Night at
kissed.
the Roxbury.
That's your synopsis.
Yeah.
Bravo.
I
Really
continue
good.
to crush on the show
Really good.
podcast.
Hilarious.
Well, they're super innocent, right? And
Yeah.
I feel
They
like
are
that
innocent. Yeah.
adds to all of
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah, they never had their dick sucked.
they're kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are
They're
kids
kids.
who want to be cool so desperately. I'll tell you the revelation that I had this morning. Okay, so we all know the Night at the Rock. I think we all know Night at the Roxbury. They're bobbing their heads to "What Is Love, Baby Don't Hurt Me."
Yeah.
They do the little nose move,
Yeah.
and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh fuck, it's cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't know it's cocaine.
They don't know it's
they don't
cocaine.
know
Like,
it's
I didn't
cocaine.
know it was
They
cocaine.
just thought that it's things people do.
I
Yeah.
was
Well,
I was
because
today
they're-
years old watching the movie, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my god, this sketch
Right.
was just a riff
Yeah.
on the coked up dudes at the club.
Yeah, absolutely.
And think of SNL, like this is where the characters of this started,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this was like was this the first feature length?
No.
It's
Wayne's-
SNL
Wayne's
character.
World.
Wayne's World was
Wayne's
before that.
World.
So
And
they
I
had
actually
had
think-
success with that.
but this, yeah.
Sort of, but I actually feel like this movie was unfairly criticized by critics at the time because it has like horrible reviews.
like
a-
11%.
The 11%
Yeah.
on Rotten Tomatoes.
There was a bias against SNL skits turned into
For a long
movies.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what do you mean for a long time? It has continued. They've
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
broken the quote unquote curse. Like Wayne's World is the exception, but you've got this Ladies Man, sort of Hot Rod. It wasn't a sketch, but it was a Lorne Michaels production. Superstar.
Superstar, which is fucking hilarious.
So
yeah,
funny.
that one we should do on
A
this.
lot of them are just funny, and people are just being haters. They just
But a lot
don't
of-
want to.
Totally. Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of like for my growing up with this movie, my best friend, like all my best stoner friends, fucking loved
Yeah.
this movie, and I didn't remember a single line of it because I was always so fucking high in high school. When I rewatched it today, it was like watching it for the first time. I was like, I don't remember any of that. Like I didn't know Jennifer Coolidge was in it.
Yeah.
I'd completely forgotten, but it's so quotable. This was how I learned about that it was an SNL sketch. Like to
Yeah.
Oh,
me,
you knew this first.
yes, I knew this
Oh, wow.
first. I knew Superstar first.
Yeah.
I knew like I'm in that weird age era. You're an old man internally, so you don't
okay.
count. But like I wasn't old enough to be watching SNL yet regularly. Like I was going to bed at 9:30. Like I wasn't cool. And so through that, then I started to look up the YouTube clips, and that's when I started to learn like
Right.
about SNL.
This era of SNL movies or SNL sketches, yep,
Skits.
nailed it.
Sketches.
I'm a professional.
Sketches.
Turn to
It's the
movies
S.
was wildly horny as well.
Oh, yeah.
It was like they were like, we're gonna do our sketch as a film, but we're gonna do everything we can't do on TV. We're gonna talk about fucking and sucking.
Yeah.
It's just okay, I'm gonna take a detour from this movie to say, first of all, this is the first time that I had seen it.
Oh,
Can
wow.
you
Its
believe?
completion. Because I was not allowed to watch these movies for whatever reason. And I know the reason. I was desperate to see the movie The Ladies Man. I loved the sketch on SNL. I thought it was so funny. And so I'm staying at my grandma's house. Me, Grammy, and Steffi, my sister, we go out to a video rental store, and I convince Grammy that we should rent The Ladies Man.
Oh boy.
And she's like, what's it about? And I'm like, oh, it's a family-friendly film. I tell her it's all fair game. I hide the fact that it's rated R.
Yeah.
We go back to Grammy's house, snuggled up in Manhattan. We get into Grammy's bed.
Oh,
laying in Grammy's. I'm like 10 years old or
Graham.
something. Grammy in the middle, me on one side, my little baby sis on the other. We start the movie. The lady, I know this is not what this episode's about.
No, but please go.
The movie begins with the ladies' man having an affair with and being caught. Some dude comes home and catches his wife sleeping with the ladies' man. But it is the most comical, like, woman on top riding topless, like a parody of porn, bouncing up and down. And so Grammy freaks out.
Of course.
Little baby Zach runs to the VHS. Is like, oh no, it's just this scene. Press fast forward. But it's a VHS player. So instead of fast forwarding to the next scene, it just does double time with a chipmunk sound. So now I'm hearing the moans of a woman having
That's
sex.
amazing.
Instead of it's bouncing back. And
That happened to me every time I took my parents to watch an American movie.
absolutely.
Every single fucking time.
nothing worse than sitting next to your mom or dad during a sex scene.
Yeah,
33. I did that last week with my dad, and I was like, nah, I gotta get up. I gotta go to the kitchen.
I fucking hate that. I love a parent with like a sense of humor that will like slowly look at their kid and be like, "You want me to be watching this with you?"
Okay, do you remember in Her, the Spike Jonze movie, when he finally, like, I guess, has sex with his cell phone? It's like the movie cuts to black, and you just hear Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson's voices, like,
Right.
I guess we're talking about sex a lot in this episode, but welcome to the show.
Yeah,
and they are like moaning together, and it's like really uncomfortable, but also like I'm transfixed by this movie. And my dad leans over and goes, "Well, this is a scene, huh?" And I'm like, I crawl, like I felt his hot breath in my ear.
Why did you whisper that to me,
my
Dad?
God.
That's disgusting.
I still can feel it. It router. Okay, back to Night at the Roxbury.
Back to Night at the Roxbury. I did meet Chris Kattan in Indianapolis.
Huge.
Very, very big deal for me.
Huge.
Very, very
Wow.
big deal for little Garrick. But he was doing a headlining show at Helium, and I was doing a show upstairs in like the little small room, and he was outside before and he went up and I met him, a big fan, blah, 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 blah. But when he went up, the first 5 minutes of his set is him just being like, "Okay, guys, play it." And then they play the music and then he does the shit with his head. And then they're like, they play what is love
People
or
go
whatever. And
nuts.
everybody goes fucking
Oh
crazy.
my God.
And then he's like, "Okay, thank you. All right, now that
Now
that's
we got
over
it out
with,
of the way."
I can do my set." But then
Unreal.
Amazing.
his whole thing is just him
I would
telling,
kill to see him do
Yeah.
that.
it's so good.
Yeah.
He really steals the show here.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
just the moments in between moments.
Yeah.
It's just the moments in between moments. Like, and I'm not going to try to imitate him.
Please do.
Yeah, please.
Where he's just like, you know what I mean?
His little jaw
Or he's like,
move.
you know,
Yeah.
he's just, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a vulnerability to it, like, because he's
100%.
playing someone who has coke jaw but doesn't know he has
But
coke jaw.
doesn't
Right.
know he
But,
has good
but
job.
there's like, you can see the hurt child behind his
100%.
eyes.
Yeah.
You know, also, this to me was an immigrant story,
Oh,
right?
Go on.
interesting.
Please,
Yeah, please.
go on.
Yeah.
No, it's like an immigrant story. It's like the father doesn't understand. The kid
Yes.
the kids have the kid has dreams,
Yeah, fair
but
enough.
he's being kind of confined to work in like
flower
the,
shop.
the family business.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's going to have an arranged marriage with
The neighbor.
the neighbor. Like this was
my
literally my
God.
life, right? This is kind of what I escaped
Yeah,
to
okay.
come to America.
Okay.
Which
Stop.
I only pieced this together last night when I was
Oh
watching
my
it. I'm
God.
like,
My
oh,
jaw is on the ground.
this
Yeah.
was
'Cause
this
you're
was
right.
this was literally like you know, whenever I'd go home, they'd be like, "So here's your future," and I'm like, "Oh fuck that! I'm going back to America. It's free there." Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I'm going back to watch Night at the Roxbury
exactly.
with my
Right,
homies in the dorm room.
There is, this is Chris Kattan and Will Ferrell's first starring role in a film.
Wild.
And it is I want to take a long moment to give them both their flowers. Now, Will Ferrell, we all know, and he is as funny as you can imagine in this movie. He's always been so funny.
Right.
But Chris Kattan is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
pound for pound, I think just one of the funniest pure humans that we've ever had.
1,000%. Like it kind of blows my mind. And again, I'm not in comedy, right?
Yeah.
But it blows my mind that Will Ferrell went on to have
Everything.
right?
That's
and
really
the fact
interesting.
that this and then Corky Romano and then Chris Kattan effectively disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, you have
as a
two
leading
bombs,
man.
and that's what'll happen. Corky Romano did not do well, and boom.
That's it.
I also feel like Ben Stiller came in and kind of they have like a similar energy, right? Because look, and Ben Stiller directed Zoolander, so this isn't a fair comparison, but you could have totally seen Chris Kattan playing
yeah.
Zoolander.
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Oh my God, he would be an
Absolutely.
He would
incredible
have crushed
one.
a Zoolander.
Yeah. It makes me Chris Kattan's I don't want to say lack of success, but like him falling off. It makes
His
me
lack of
feel-
superstardom.
His lack of superstardom makes me feel anger towards everybody else that was around him, where they're just like, "Oh, we're going to stifle the person who is obviously the funniest in the room."
100%, 100%,
It feels
yeah.
like
Keenan and
it is.
Kel, we had this conversation last week.
And
I
it's maybe even to like rephrase it, it's not like a lack of superstardom. It's kind of like when someone's talent versus their output
Yeah.
are not commensurate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm
yeah.
looking at at Will Ferrell's filmography, and again, I am a humongous Will Ferrell fan, so I don't mean this to take away
Right.
from Will Ferrell.
Right.
But he played the villain in Zoolander.
Yeah.
That was obviously a huge moment for him. But then 2 years later, Old School. And that was a breakout smash
For sure.
hit
Yeah.
where he was like the Zach Galifianakis and Hangover type
Yeah.
explosion.
Yeah.
And that is the difference between being a
that one
superstar
big-
and
yeah.
being the dude from Corky Romano.
But was it what happened? When was Elf? When did Elf come out? Because I remember that was
Elf
that
was 03.
Oh, Elf was the same year. God, what a year.
that was
Oh, fuck.
shit.
because I remember
You
Elf
know really
being
what it
his
was?
big
He had a
break.
good
Yeah,
agent.
yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
had a better agent.
And you
Yeah.
know, that's what I thought was so interesting about this movie was that Chris Kattan, like, Will Ferrell is great, but he's not the funniest in this movie. And there's almost like and maybe it's also his character, but there's a babiness to him. Like his
Yes.
confidence isn't as big on
Yeah, it's a
camera
little shy.
in the
1000%.
way that
Yeah.
like he could be big with sketches and the way we had maybe seen him on SNL. But it was so fascinating, just to see such a young Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
And then to see like a little bit of a smaller Will
a much
Ferrell.
smaller Will Ferrell.
A little
And
outshined.
I think it's also
Outshone?
him just knowing his role to the point where he's
Totally.
will like just straight down the cannon. Like, I am going to be a doofus, and if a doofus doesn't make big motions, then I'm not gonna.
He
do
was
them.
Chris Kattan's bitch, his side boy. Like
his
that's,
little
and he
guy.
was like, I'm
Yeah, it's his
gonna
gentle
play the
giant.
role.
Yeah.
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 That's what a lot of like.
Also, like, feel like Will Ferrell gets. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no,
I
I
feel
was
like Will Ferrell just his comedy type. He gets funnier the older he gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because he behaves in a way
like
that he doesn't look like. Right,
Yeah.
the way he
Yeah.
looks versus the way he acts. He looks like a
Exactly.
dude who works in like middle management at an
Insurance
insurance
company.
company.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's very well observed.
So this was like almost like even in this movie, he looks older than he plays, and there's
Yeah.
part of the
that's what he always does.
Right.
Yeah,
He's a
the
grown up, but he's a
stepbrother.
kid still
Yeah.
mentally.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Kattan too? I'm just trying to think. Is what Chris Kattan the best at? Is there a world where that ever would have translated to movies?
1,000%.
Because I think about
Yeah.
him like he was great at like Mango and like throwing himself into these big, really, really goofy characters.
Yeah.
There was an episode of fun fact. I was on an episode of SNL.
He loves to remind us.
He played Gollum. Chris Kattan played Gollum in that
Perfect.
episode,
Yeah.
and like no one else can do
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got he has a malleable comedy face. Like just what you were saying, the small jaw movements, like the big eyes, it translates so well on TV. And I almost
Yeah.
wonder if it was like he's too big
Yeah.
for movies. Like, was he just too
Right.
caricature at that time? Like he
That's
came too
fair.
early because that became cooler later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
but he would have, been slotted into. You look at movies like Zoolander, Anchorman, all of these comedies that came right after this movie dropped.
Maybe he just had a massive coke problem, guys, and we're just like trying to
keep
sit
on
him in
bringing that
somewhere.
up.
I'm just saying, like we're all like, what's the problem? It's like, well, maybe there's something going on behind the scenes we don't know about, you know?
that's fair.
You should ask him next time you see him.
I won't.
Oh, okay.
There is, okay, so thinking about specific scenes too, there's this one great scene where the two of them are simultaneously losing their virginities. And he is, why did I get such a big chuckle?
Oh, it's just such a funny scene.
They're so used to just playing their pickup line game.
Oh my
and
God.
being rejected,
Yeah.
that finally being in a
Yeah, it was.
What is that?
It's the sound of an ambulance.
It's an ambulance.
Coming to take me away because the sight of you stopped my heart. You're like,
do you like blueberries or strawberries? Why? I want to know what kind of pancakes to order you in the morning.
Is that a mirror in your pocket? Because I can see myself in your pants.
By the way, the blueberry strawberry line, I was like,
That's pretty good.
Big line. I'm pretty sold on that
that's just
one.
kindness.
Yeah.
That's just kindness.
Yeah.
It's-
Honestly, if a man asked me, see ya. Fucking love you, marry me. But that was so funny because you'd never seen where a character had gotten that far. And any other movie of that time would have had him fumbling the condom or like coming really fast or whatever. But the fact that they literally couldn't even have sex because they didn't know how to go to the next step was just the act of like one-upping the joke. Like it just kept
They were
one-upping
so used
itself.
to rejection as well.
Yeah.
When someone said yes, they would.
They couldn't take it.
They were like, wait, what?
It's also so funny because that style of joke is kind of having like a resurgence on Twitter where people are showing their worst DMs and it's just from like, it's like OnlyFans models and then guys being like, hey, what's up? And then the girl responds, she's like, hi. And he's like, oh, I didn't know I'd get this far. Have a nice day. It's so fucking funny. I love every single one of them that I've been seeing.
Can I just say that's also like the basis of troll behavior? Anytime I've responded back to a mean or like nasty or misogynistic comment, they've been like, oh my God, I actually love you. I'm so sorry.
I was just having a bad day.
Yeah.
You're wonderful.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind. And I'm like, that was...
It's very weird.
Shut up.
Yeah.
When she asks, is this your first time? The way that Chris Kattan plays that, where he goes, that's hilarious. Did you hear that? And he starts calling out to Will Ferrell and then is crawling back on the bed. Ferrell, oh, it's so good.
Yeah. I'm sorry that I keep harping on this, but I feel like during this era, there was a huge bias against physical comedy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
During this era?
During this era, like when this movie came out.
Yeah.
Because even that, right? Like,
Damn,
I mean, you guys are comedians.
Yeah.
You can look
Only
at
technically
this
for me,
and go,
but-
whoa, this is fucking great. Like just the physical comedy that's brought into every scene. Because it's not like this movie had like insane Michael Bay style camera moves, right?
But
It was
what if it
basically
did?
it was shot like a TV show. It was shot like an episode of Saturday Night Live, right? It's kind of a static camera and then go perform. So it really hinges on the performers to create all the movement in the scene, right? That is hard. That is a difficult style of comedy, which I feel like historically was almost looked down upon by the I want to say the
bourgeoisie.
critics.
Yeah,
but it's the thing.
yeah,
It's like
probably the
in favor
critical.
of this kind of like subtle Al Pacino style of acting.
That's so weird because everybody still hates physical comedy,
Right.
Which is interesting because I think that's
Where
the
comedy
only-
came
it's
from.
where it came from.
like
It's the
Buster
only thing
Keaton.
that's
Like,
yeah.
Buster
Yeah.
Keaton.
It's the only thing that's really, really funny nowadays whenever you see it, like with, I guess, with Bottoms. It's like that's full of physical comedy. And whenever you harp back to this era in general, it's really weird that they weren't applauding it given how much you see it.
I think part of the reason, and I don't want to go too inside baseball here, is so comedies generally only had an American or a Western audience. You couldn't distribute them internationally the way you could like an action movie like Speed. Right? Speed plays everywhere in the world. Everyone gets the plot. Physical comedies translated internationally, right? So you had physical comedies would play everywhere in the world. So you had like schlocky physical comedies being made for the international marketplace. And maybe, and I don't know, maybe this was an inability to differentiate, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, all physical comedy is bad, just like all action movies are low rate, or all horror movies. Because you see this also with horror movies during the era, right? Like all horror movies, they must be B, C, D movies.
Sure.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
a good
and I
point.
think we also I don't know who the they is, if it's critics or just general perception at large, but there's this assumption that subtlety is what should be celebrated, and that that's a serious film, and therefore that's good.
Yes.
And so now the inverse of that, things that are big or people who are gifted with their bodies, that is unserious and
100%,
therefore unworthy of praise. But you look at like you mentioned Buster Keaton, right? That once upon a time was praised. Jackie Chan, I know people don't like him right now because he was a terrible person to his children, but like he was not celebrated as the most purely gifted performer that he was, and that's also because by the time that he crossed over, then he was in like Shanghai Nights and shitty U.S. movies. But like that type of performance is, I mean, it's why Michelle Yeoh won and deserved to win. Like when you can do things with your body, you unlock another dimensionality of storytelling.
Totally.
Absolutely. I feel like
1,000%, dude. 1,000%. Like it's almost like there was a bias, and Charlie Chaplin escaped it, but there's a bias.
I don't know how.
Yeah. But it's like if you could do multiple things, you were almost punished for it.
I'm still punished for it. Could tell my agents, being a 360 creator, right? Like they want you to be one thing.
Yeah, 100%.
They want you to have a niche and like live and die on that
I
hill.
similarly am too good at physical comedy and stunts. It's really held me back.
Professional wrestlers go through this, right? Because they're effectively they're actors, they're stunt people, they're writers, they write their own. Like a lot of them write their own stuff. They're costume designers. They're creating the character, right?
Yeah.
And then you go out there and it's like, okay, well, SAG doesn't want you. The stunt people, it's like you're kind of rejected by all the niches.
Yeah. It's really funny because like thinking about like Sylvester Stallone and like how hard he had to fight to be Rocky after writing Rocky.
Right,
They're like, well, you're a writer, so you can't be the lead of this movie. He's like, I have to be.
Wow.
I'm the only one that could do this.
And now they're like, if you didn't write it, do you even have a personal connection to it?
Right,
like, why should
exactly.
you be the developer of this project?
Right. It's very, it's very, I mean, it's shifted to a lot of auteurship, which is, I mean, good and bad.
Real quick, just some things to shout out about this movie. It's got some serious Clueless crossover, which is always exciting for me.
It does?
It does. So
Amy Heckerling
produced the movie, which to me, you know that meme where the girl's like, Beyonce?
Yeah.
When I saw Amy Heckerling's name in the credits, that was like, that is you know that tweet where it's like the one word that makes people lose their minds in the bedroom? For me, it's her name. When I see that in a movie, I
That's
lean
amazing.
the fuck forward.
That's amazing.
You have Dan Hedaya, who is the dad in Clueless. He's the dad here. I think
he's legend.
the greatest movie dad to ever live.
Yeah.
He is mean. He is serious.
He's got a hairy chest and you know it.
Oh,
you
he's
know?
hairy.
Of
He's just got like a dad
He's burly.
chest.
Yeah. Gray
like I
hair,
trust him
black
with my life.
mustache.
But you could also like see the hardship in his eyes, right? You could
Snake
Going
eyes.
back to the immigrant tale.
right? You
Yeah.
can see the life he built brick by brick,
Yeah.
and why he's disappointed in his
Just
Children.
like,
kids,
for the
right?
love of
Always.
God, please don't try to do what you're trying to do.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then that
Disapproval.
conversation with Richard Grieco where he like
This is so good.
where he fucking realizes that he's really fighting himself and he like lets go. You see him physically let go and he's like, oh my God.
The end of the movie, as like just a joke throwaway, Richard Grieco psychoanalyzes this dad character and is like, "You hate your son because you're fighting against yourself." He goes, "My God, Richard Grieco, you're right." And it's so insightful and deep, and it has no reason to be.
No.
And because of this movie, I thought Richard Grieco was like a huge like megastar.
Oh.
Right?
Whoops.
Because I like you don't know
that
like
they're
who's
Yeah.
who's whom and it's just a weird movie.
Richard Grieco, who our audience listening now probably has no idea who the
idea.
fuck he is, was not Johnny Depp in the original 21 Jump Street TV show.
Yeah.
And he plays himself in this movie, and what a treat it is.
It's awesome.
Same with Emilio Estevez from Mighty Ducks.
He's not in it, though.
No, but they talk about
Okay,
it over
okay,
and
okay.
over
Yeah.
again.
Constantly.
You made me scared that I like
Missed
space
it.
out.
Emilio Estevez. No.
How long have you guys
unmissable.
lived in LA?
About 10 years.
10 years?
And I'll tell you
14.
that when I moved to LA, oh God, it's been actually more than 10 years. Who gives a shit? like trying to get into those clubs is what I felt I was supposed to do.
Ugh.
And I was in my early 20s and I had nothing to offer anybody.
Right.
And really like I see myself in these guys in a way that I don't want to.
That's amazing.
Because we have all been the one outside of the club that can't get in. We've all been there, whether it was a whoops, our friend forgot to put us on the list, or I don't want to go to this fucking thing. But like we all know that feeling of not being cool enough to get in. But these guys take it to a degree where you're like, am I rooting for them because they're so naive and they really don't know? Or
You
is
mean
it
so
because
cool that society doesn't understand them?
or is it they're
yeah,
finally
absolutely.
achieving the dream that I couldn't get in the club? Yeah, psychoanalyze that, bitches. All three of you just looked up to the sky. Like, huh.
I want you to sit with
Also
that.
remembered. So one of those two guys who's like obsessed from the school I went to.
Okay,
when I first
this is a
moved to.
callback to the friends that we
Yeah,
won't
yeah.
name. Okay.
So he was like in LA. So I was like producing like big movies in my 20s, and he came to the club with me, and I could see just the emotions. It was like hatred, jealousy, envy. This was like his
dream.
This was his dream.
Yeah.
And you're living it.
And he got more and more angry as the night progressed. I'm trying to not come off as douchey.
No.
But at one point, someone came up and they were like, "Hey, Chris Pine's here. You guys should say what's up." So like
Your favorite Chris.
Yeah, it's the best Chris.
It's
So-
the best.
No,
Chris.
arguable.
It's
Chris
truly
Prime
the
is
best.
what I call him.
Chris
So-
Prime.
Very nice.
I'm gonna
What
come off
era
douchey.
of Chris Pine are we
So
talking
this
here?
was like 10. This is more than 10 years ago.
This is not Jumper.
Star
What's
Trek?
the other?
Yeah, Star Trek
Looper?
had come out. Star Trek had come
No,
out, right?
the Push. This is Push era.
No, you're thinking
No,
Chris
Chris
Evans.
Evans.
Oh, I'm thinking
That's
Chris
my
Evans.
Chris.
This is
Yeah,
Star
yeah.
Trek Chris.
Oh, Star Trek. This is a
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
This is a good.
This is a big Chris.
Yeah. So, and I had like an entourage I used to roll with.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Again, I'm becoming more unlikable as this story.
It fits with the theme of the movie.
I'm like,
fine.
I'm like playing a
Yeah,
character. I'm
yeah,
like playing
you're
a
already
character,
doing
right? I'm
it,
just playing
yeah.
a character. I'm like, whatever.
yeah.
So someone from my entourage goes and talks to someone in Chris Pine's entourage, and then
The entourage.
right? So then me and him like meet up, and we're like do a high five, and then go back.
What, just a logistics question. When we are sending representatives from the entourage,
Right.
are you sending the E or are you sending a lower level? Like, is it a turtle who goes?
It just depends on the situation. It depends
you send
on the
your brave
situation.
and brightest.
I think you send that would be my assumption.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You send
Yeah.
your second in command.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
send
A meeting of the
the
generals.
Well, you want
I
someone,
love that
but
this
look,
is like a
here's the thing.
wartime
But
type
Yeah.
here's the
Yeah.
thing. You want someone personable, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want someone that's
Outgoing.
going to like start a fight.
Yeah.
No.
So, anyways, but this friend that he lost it when that happened.
Yeah,
he
of
like
course.
literally lost it.
He starts crying and shit.
No, he was like, he just kept like doing shots. He's like, yeah, just so you know, I can still kick your ass, bro.
Of course.
I can still kick your
Oh,
ass, man.
Of course.
You may be like really cool, but I can kick your ass. He just kept saying that over and over again. And I'm like, I got it.
Yeah, cool, man. Cool. That's a typical, like, yeah, you beat me in Madden, but you can't fucking play basketball. Or, like, you
Like
can't play
in real
football
life,
for real.
yeah.
I felt really, really bad. So I
Yeah.
was like, and everything I did to try to make this dude feel better,
Yeah.
he would get more and more mad.
Of course.
Yeah, the
course,
club
he's a-
brings out a side of everybody. You know, it's past your bedtime.
The worst
It's
side.
dark in there. It's too fucking loud, as our boys point out in this movie. The club is not as good as y'all crack it up to be.
Real quick, just other things about. I want to hit some quick hits about this movie before we move on to fun facts. Did you register that the ending is just word for word the end of Jerry Maguire?
No, I did not.
Really tickled me.
Yeah.
And I definitely imagine that whenever this movie came out, people would have been howling
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
And now it's just a reference lost to time.
Is this released in
Even
theaters?
the boombox.
Oh yeah, it was lost to the. Oh
Even the
right, say
boombox,
anything.
say anything.
You're
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Of course, it was released in theaters.
I like, for some reason, was like, would a movie like this be in theaters in the 90s? Were theaters invented by then?
I'm going to Box Office Mojo right now. I want to know how this did.
Oh,
I bet
okay.
you it didn't do well.
I think it did 30 million.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's-
what was the budget?
17 million, I think. Let me double check.
Today it'd be made for like 500K
Yeah.
and it would
Uh-huh.
be buried in some streaming platform.
Yeah.
Something that I
absolutely.
also loved, the disrespect to this movie, is that it's on HBO on Max, and the opening of it, the scan that they have of the Paramount logo.
Oh my God,
film
it
gate is
shakes.
shaking.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Yeah.
Such little disregard or such disregard for this movie. They're like, we're not gonna give the HD upload.
Yeah.
Literally, the entire beginning isn't in HD, and then it like switches to HD after like the cold open of it, or like the trailer of it, whatever.
Did you grab my ass?
I don't know. Did I?
Well, from where
Are
he's
you grabbing
sitting,
my
it's a
ass?
physical impossibility.
It's physically impossible.
Just had to. The last thing in my notes that I wrote down is that every time I try to wear a chain, I am afraid I look like them.
Oh, okay.
Damn.
No, bro. You got to lean into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are y'all ready for some fun
Time
facts?
for fun facts with Zach. Please.
Wait, who is this person? I need to look up her photo so that I can tell this fun fact. 'Cause this is a good fun fact.
Canby? Are you talking about Canby from the movie?
Yeah, you definitely know all these
How
fun
do you know
facts,
these
don't
fun
you?
facts?
Because
she's from Clueless, and you're a Clueless guy.
Oh no, that I did catch, and that I loved. Will Ferrell married his co-star from this film. What? Vivica Pollan. Is the only movie that the two appeared in together. They met in an acting class in 95. They decided to just be friends. They did this movie together in 98, got married in 2000.
Wait, who was she?
Looking it up. I think she's who he loses her virginity to.
Is she his wife? Is that girl?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
This
don't
would be
know.
a
I'm a Night
very
at the
fun
Roxbury
fact.
fan, not a Wolf. I'm kidding.
She was Porsche girl number 1.
Oh,
Porsche
so she was
girl
an
number
extra
one.
or something? When are Porsches in this film?
No, yeah, she is. That's the girl that he loses her virginity to.
Okay. There
Oh,
it is.
wow.
Oh, yep.
Very
That
cool.
is wow. Love
That is amazing.
Very
love
nice.
wins.
Then
What
it
a-
was all worth it.
What a good love story.
See, the club brings love together. Zach, you're not the only one.
Whoa, you and Will Ferrell have that in common.
We're like
Met
many
the wife
ways.
at the club.
Jim Carrey contributed to the script, but was uncredited.
And they throw a reference to him,
do.
which I
Yeah.
was like, are they about to? Oh, no.
Okay, it has an 11% Rotten Tomatoes score, but the audience score is 69. Very nice, Rainie. Thank you for
That's
including that.
Funny.
Nice.
Very nice.
That was a joke from Rainie.
By the way, the movie was such a snapshot of Los Angeles, how it used to be.
Yeah,
watching
right?
Sunset Boulevard, that was such a trip, too.
Yeah. You're like, whoa, it's clean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I like the
And it-
buildings. I've been to like AA meetings in those
Yeah,
clubs.
yeah. It's like way less billboards down Sunset.
Yeah.
Also,
Less lights.
very cool.
Crazy.
Like heavy traffic, because even back then there's traffic, but it's like nothing compared to what it is
Oh
now.
my
God.
No, right?
I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
look at
yeah,
all this
yeah,
outdoor
yeah.
shooting on Sunset Boulevard they were doing. Ha.
Yeah.
This I don't mean to end on a bummer, but this one's making me sad.
Uh-oh.
So this is according to Chris Kattan. After they completed the film, he and Will Ferrell,
Say it ain't so, Zach.
didn't speak again until the 23rd season of SNL because there was an on-set relationship between Kattan and Amy
cocaine.
Heckerling.
Oh. Which
Not
one was
cocaine.
she? Oh.
She's the producer,
Sorry.
Oh.
director of Clueless. They worked together on SNL, but then Ferrell left at the end of season 27, and they've never collaborated since.
I'm saying there's something going on with Chris Kattan that we don't know about, y'all.
Yeah,
The math ain't
he fucked
mathing.
Amy.
Well, but like, why
it
did that
just,
break up him
like,
and Will
why-
Ferrell?
yeah,
Why
why
did
did
that
him-
bother him? I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's what I'm saying. Something's going on.
Yeah.
Something's going on. I'm starting that rumor right here.
That's kind of wild.
It is a bummer. It's
Yeah.
a bummer.
You know what also is a bummer is that the thought that I just had of like the inevitable Super Bowl commercial with the two of them as old guys reenacting this. Like
But
that,
it's going to have to be CGI or like, green
they're not
screen
gonna be in
because
the
they
same
won't be in the
room.
same room.
the closest we'll ever get to it.
Oh, you could totally do a green screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Keenan and Kel, they did it. Maybe we can make it happen with them.
get the boys back together.
Just for a commercial. Why not?
Yeah.
I just want to shout out that I think this might be the greatest soundtrack to a movie ever.
Yeah.
Oh
this
my
fucking
God.
slaps.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still listen to this music.
Yeah. Oh, if
Like,
this still
every
got
day.
in the club,
Yeah.
which it
Every
still
day. Yeah.
does,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
You
a banger.
have just like
I've never
every-
listened to modern music. I
No.
just whatever, but this is like timeless.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You really are. You're like, when was this ever made? Who made this? I don't know, but I love it. Everyone's dancing to these songs in this
Yeah.
movie.
I also I don't know what was going on with like the royalties back then, but I feel like people were more lax
Yeah.
with like having actual songs in movies. Because I remember Life and Times of Ginger. Is that it?
Why are you looking at me? I don't know what
Do you
you're
know
saying.
that show? That's Told by Ginger.
Oh,
The
Now
cartoon.
that's a show I know.
As So by Ginger had
Macy
like
Gray
a full
theme
Macy
song.
Gray theme song, and I'm like,
Someone once told me
Yeah.
that grass was
There
much
was
greener.
on the other
It wasn't that they're more
side.
lax back then because I experienced kind of the tail end of this,
Mm-hmm.
but you used to get like an actual bump from the soundtrack.
oh, okay.
Right.
So-
if they sold because they would sell. They
sold
that
it.
was
Yeah.
big sales.
Okay.
back
They were
then.
big sales, and then on top of that, like you'd put it in the trailer, and people would go to the movie because remember the movie Car Wash?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh,
Richard-
because the song Car Wash
right,
was in it. Yeah.
right. So
Oh.
like the soundtrack used to be a driver of box office.
Wow.
hilarious.
That
checks
stopped.
out.
That stopped. Really with our generation because we're like, so
Doesn't matter. It's- you
So
can just stream it.
and then so music licensing costs didn't really go down to match that, right? Because if you want like
yeah.
a Rolling Stone song, it's going to cost you the same amount, but you're not going to get like more people watching it
yeah.
for the song.
Okay, so it's just less worth it.
But I
now.
do feel like songs becoming iconic in trailers is like starting to come back. Like I'm just thinking of Jordan Peele's like
Oh
before,
God.
like that,
5 on
or
it.
like
I got-
Talk to Me, like that song. Even
Yeah,
now, I'm like, oh my
yeah.
god, like in a
Yeah.
way, it's showing itself where I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the Talk to Me song.
Yeah.
The hardest I laughed in this entire movie is they're in an elevator and there's an elevator cover of
version.
What Is
That-
Love.
Yeah.
And
1000%.
they just
That made
very
me-
slowly bob their heads.
Because
Yeah.
they're being reverent to the classical tones
Right.
of this version.
Followed by a line that I didn't realize was from this movie because I've had a douchey person earnestly say it to me, which was they don't hit on girls in the elevator, and he's like, "Why get a burger for lunch when you got a steak waiting for you back at home?" And I was surprised it was from this movie because I've heard someone say that to me. and
I've
I'm like,
heard that. I thought that they were referencing.
Maybe they
something.
were, okay.
Yeah.
I guess it's real. I don't know.
They also just have the song.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba, deep dap da-day. Ba-da-ba-da-ba, deep
That's a
dap da-day.
great song.
I love it.
Yeah.
Amber, like that. Just go listen to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's just awesome.
And now it's
just
time for us to
awesome.
decide: is this movie a pleasure, a guilty pleasure, or just plain guilty? Addie, I'm going to give you the floor. Really tell people why they should watch this film.
There's pleasure. There's guilty pleasure. And then there's just high fucking art. Right? And when you look at high art, it's not revered at its time, right? Like Moby Dick, the shit people will remember in 1,000 years. Like when Moby Dick came out, no one gave a fuck. They're like, this is some bullshit. Fuck Moby Dick.
Yeah.
Right? Now they teach that shit in school.
Yeah.
Right? They're gonna teach this shit in school.
Yeah.
Film
Right?
school.
When no, not film school. Like I'm
Just
talking
school.
Just like
elementary
English
school.
class
Yeah,
in high
like
school. Got
like
it.
when the AI overlords are kind of jacking the kids into the school, and they're like,
yeah.
like they're gonna be like, and this is a capsule.
I
This
want
is
to
a
teach you about
screenshot.
the
This is
immigrant
like the
child
fucking
experience.
Picasso.
Yeah.
This is like the Picasso painting of this time period.
Yeah.
That checks
Right?
out.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah, that's fair.
You're very convincing with your words.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could actually see that.
Yeah.
Where someone in the back was like, okay, and when the kids need to be plugged in for school and they ask, what were the late 90s, early aughts like? We're going to play them Night at the Roxbury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like to be too cool for the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy's the programmer.
But then they're like, they're able to bend the world to them.
Yeah.
Right?
They had the club at the end
This
of the
is like the being there, the
Kind of like The Matrix.
Yeah, it's a
Totally.
little bit like the Matrix. I think that they're the Neo of early Los Angeles.
they don't even need to get into the club, right? They don't need to fucking dodge bullets or get into the club
Because
they
the
can
club
make
is
their
the
own
outside.
club, right?
Yeah.
They are the club.
They are the club.
Yeah.
And the club was friendship all along.
Goddamn. Addie, you have a new show on Netflix.
Tell us about
I
it.
do. It's called Captain Laserhawk,
Great name.
Blood Dragon remix.
Very cool.
So it's essentially 1984.
Great year.
Yeah,
God damn it.
it's a brave new world. It's dystopian science fiction.
Oh, yeah.
How much head bobbing is there?
Yeah.
A lot.
Oh, hell yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
It was actually heavily inspired by Night at the Rock. It's like basically if you take Night at the Roxbury, but then you take the two brothers and you put them in a dystopian hellscape
There you go.
in an alternate timeline because Captain Laserhawk is set in the 90s. It's set in an alternate
There you
90s, right? And America's just become one giant nightclub called Eden.
Ah.
Yeah. And they're just fighting throughout the nightclub the whole time.
Totally.
Trying to get in.
Yeah.
They're trying to get in,
Yeah.
and at the end they bend the club to their will and create their own club.
I
you go.
love where things come from, like just it being inspired by Night at the Roxbury. That's just so fucking funny. That's so fun.
It's like
If you liked Night at the Roxbury, you might like.
No.
Other things
if you
like
like Night at
this.
the Roxbury, you will love Captain Laserhawk.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Check it out.
You got all episodes streaming now, and where can people find you?
Me?
Yeah.
You don't need to find me. Just
We
Yeah.
normally have people on
Just
here
watch
that
the
want to be
show.
found, but
I don't
yeah.
want to be found.
You want your show to be watched.
Like these dudes, these and gals are dope.
Aw.
Keep sending positive energy to them.
Oh yeah.
And
Take it.
support independent creators
Hell
like
yeah.
them who've built a media ecosystem, which is so fucking awesome, right? That's fucking awesome. So
Wow.
support this channel.
Wow, that ended up
That-
being
it's
like
very
an
sweet.
advertisement for
That
us
was very
for your
sweet.
shout out. Thank you.
Wowie. All right. Well, I had a feeling, but after that, you were invited back anytime.
Hey.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I need more passionate films coming out of your mouth.
Hell yeah.
Nice, yeah.
I'm at Corn Daddy and all the things.
Kelsey Darragh on all things.
Garrick Bernard on all the things.
And until next time,
what
is love?
Maybe we gotta do it. Garrick, you gotta be careful because you have a steel neck.
I do have a steel neck.
Is that
and
why
this
you're so
hurts.
good at the head bob?
Yes,
I think it's
'cause he has
because
a
I'm
steel
always
neck.
leaning to the left, so I can. It's fair. It's like
It's your chronic pain.
it's my chronic pain.
Wow.
This is actually relieving the pain.